Hello everyone, welcome to Diademy IAS History Optional. Let us analyze 2025 question paper 2 History Optional. This is the question paper. Identify this. Like paper 1, paper 2 also not that very difficult. If you finish entire syllabus, it is going to be easy. Let us try to see broadly what is the nature of the questions and how to broadly answer the questions also. Critically examine the following statements. The Sikh monarchy was Napoleonic in the suddenness of its rise, the brilliancy of its success, and the completeness of its overthrow. It is trying very unique. This question is somewhat very unique, but it is not difficult. So simply they are asking explain the rise of Sikh Empire simply. What is this? If you remember the timeline, almost it is similar. So probably that is the reason UPSC very unique way has asked this question. What is the time period of Napoleonic Empire? Napoleonic Empire timeline is this one. He conquered Europe. He conquered almost entire Europe, brought under his control. In 1790s, to be specific 1799 onwards, till 1814, 15, he was literally ruling Europe. Now, when it comes to this area, Sikh Empire under Ranjit Singh, here Napoleon, Ranjit Singh. Interesting element is exactly like this only, but he was there up to 1814-15, but he is there up to 1839, but 1799. You see, that's why probably UPSC is comparing this and this, Napoleon and Sikh Empire. So simply it is saying that very fast. Here also Napoleon very fastly conquered entire Europe. And when it comes to Ranjit Singh also, he conquered Afghanistan, Kashmir region, Kashmir region, Punjab region. He brought, before that, there were so many small Sikh kingdoms. Before that, the Sikh region was under Mughals, later captured by Afghan. So many small kingdoms were there. He unified them very fastly and maintained one strong empire. His empire reached up to Kashmir region also. That is where the question is, the Sikh monarchy was a Napoleonic in suddenness, very fastly. Its rise, the brilliancy of its success and completeness of its overthrow. Overthrow also. When it comes to decline, immediate Napoleon was defeated in Battle of Waterloo. Within years, once again the map of Napoleonic Empire came to original position like France. When it comes to this also, after his death, his successors are weak, and immediately British interfered in the internal affairs of Sikh Empire, and immediately within few years it came down. By 1849, within 10 years, Sikh region became part of European Empire or British Empire. That's why very fast and very fast in decline also. That is how we have to highlight. Next one. The seeds of domestic dissensions were thickly and deeply sown in the Maratha system under Peshwas. In paper 1 also, in the similar lines, like the rise of Peshwa rise of Marathas in 18th century. There also this point will come. Here also this question is asked. The seeds of domestic dissensions were thickly and deeply sown in the Maratha system under the Peshwas. Peshwas means, when it comes to Shivaji, through guerrilla war tactic, he managed. So this is Shivaji. But Peshwas brought majority, their empire reached almost like this, and indirectly they reached here. So when they were there, they created a confederacy called Sindhia, Gwalior, Sindhia, Holkar, Gaikwad, Bhosle. Thickly means confederacy. Dissensions. Now, among these five powerful centers, these are five power centers. As long as Peshwa in Pune was very powerful, able to manage this. And in fact, for the rise of Peshwa Empire, for the rise of Maratha Empire, this arrangement only helped because Pune is not like Gangetic Valley. Resources are not there. They have to depend on the local leaders. Peshwa arranged this local leader so that they started capturing in their own way. And it helped Maratha Empire to grow very fastly. But at the same time, the seeds of domestic dissensions were thickly and deeply sown in the Maratha system under Peshwas. But this is the same system when there is no single entity, single authority. Every individual power wanted to increase its power. Holkar wanted to powerful, Scindia wanted to become powerful, Bhonsle wanted to become powerful, Peshwa wanted to become powerful. Now there will be internal politics among themselves. That's why when there was a problem in the hereditary Peshwa, that means one after the Peshwa, then next his son, next his son, next his son, and so on. When the tradition was going on, there were questions within these power centers that why only Peshwa need to control entire Maratha system, and within them factions emerged. So when there is a problem within the Peshwa family, the other power centers have taken the sides and it led to group politics. Finally, British took advantage of it and they captured Maratha region. So that is how you have to highlight. Like till 1770s. Till 1770s it was going well. But after 1770s, problem within the family of Peshwa. Who should become the next Peshwa? Then murders within the Peshwa family. Then within these power centers, the groups started. Finally, by 1800, Peshwa himself entered into British lap. That is how you have to highlight. Like a sentence only like this, but naturally the question is like explain the weakness of Peshwa system. That is the only question. In Grover and Grover, this particular content is very well given. Next, Bhagat Singh and his comrades significantly expanded the meaning and scope of revolution, redefining it beyond mere political upheaval to include social ideological transformation. It's a very good question because generally Bhagat Singh generally seen as someone revolutionary extremist, revolutionary person who wanted to overthrow the British Raj through violent means. But given the age in 20s, he was very well aware about what is happening in the other part of the country, other part of the globe. Russian Revolution happened in 1917. Now he is operating in 1920s. Bhagat Singh and his comrades means Bhagat Singh and his fellow comrades. Now Bhagat Singh, before 10 years, like individual, before 10 years ago, like in case of Calcutta, attacking the judges, attacking the military officers, attacking the police officers, whoever unpopular officers were there, individually targeting and trying to make them fearful, trying to make the British administration fearful that it's a kind of statement that nothing is very good in the Indian administration. They have to take care of Indian interests. These are the individual heroic acts. But when it comes to Bhagat Singh phase by 1920s, influenced by this, influenced by French Revolution, now a new kind of politics are emerging. No doubt a violent one. But they used this violence also to fundamentally transform the system. fundamentally transform the Indian system, just not to create fear in the British administrators. What is that? They are saying that when it comes to freedom, freedom not only from the freedom from the British Raj, real freedom means, inspired by the Russian Revolution, freedom from poverty, freedom from discrimination, discrimination of caste, and equal treatment of women, Hindu Muslim unity, Hindu Muslim unity. So, what is this? It is not just to attack the only unpopular British officers, but their aim is to transform. Aim is to transform the Indian society like this. So, freedom means not just freedom from exploitation of the British, but also freedom from the exploitation within the country also. That's why these are the elements which you need to highlight. He also edited some of the newspapers of his time period also. He was a very well read, widely read personality. He inspired from Lenin and Karl Marx ideology. That's why at that young age, his ideas and his comrades' ideas are not only to get freedom from the British colonial exploitation, but from entire Indian society exploitation. Next one. The significant feature of the Indian Councils Act of 1892 was the principle of election, which it introduced, though the word election was very carefully avoided in it. So, what is it saying that? 1892, the significant feature was the principle of election, which it introduced. In 1892, first time the election principle came. It is not a universal adult suffrage. It's an indirect, like municipal boards, universities, local organization used to send their representatives to the legislature. But they have not used that term election. But the feature of this principle is indirectly election only. So that you have to highlight. In 1892, they brought this the indirect election system. It gave opportunity to many Indians. Indians also entered into legislative councils, and they utilized the same principle which is given by the British to highlight or expose the British colonial exploitation. It is one of the tools used by Indians to highlight drain theory. Drain theory was exposed within the councils after 1892 Councils Act. Therefore, the significant feature of this principle is election, but they avoided so that it will not create more uproar in the society. The British always used to have dilemma. On one side, they used to say that they are very progressive in nature. They came to India to civilize Indians. But on the other hand, they also had the mandate to preserve the British Empire, because nationalism and empire will not exist together, because it is a colonial empire. On the other hand, if you create nationalism, then automatically nationalism is against colonialism. That therefore, both are not compatible with each other. That's why British administrators were very careful. On one hand, they have to show the world and to the Indians that they are here for the Indian benefit. But on the other hand, they have to preserve their empire. That's why even though they bring such kind of reforms, they used to make the features in such a way that it can be multiple interpreted. So that's why election term will not be there, so that they want to preserve. And in case in future, if Indians protest, and they will say that election is not the mechanism we have given. But on the other hand, they have to show the Indians that we are democratic people. We are here to make you mature in the democracy. That's why we are introducing a election type of representation. So in 1892, it was there, and election was not given. Just you need to highlight the principles of 1892 and other principles also, like they have given voting, where they have given rights to Indians also in budget, but they cannot vote, but they can discuss. Likewise, certain features. The colonial rule opened the Indian markets for British manufactured goods and led to deindustrialization or destruction of indigenous handicraft industries. Very straightforward question. It's like British colonial rule result in the deindustrialization. Explain. Same thing only. Because Indians were very industrialized people before 1970. Indian trade 25% of the global trade. But when industrial revolution happened in London, now they needed markets. Therefore, they have to convert Indian colony into market. If they want to convert Indian into market, they have to destroy the Indian industries. Gradually, they are going to break the spinning wheel of Indians and they are going to make India just a raw material supplier, whereas consumer of industrial revolution prepared goods. That is how. Very straightforward, you can highlight. Do you agree that the idea of permanent fixation of land revenue of 73 of Bengal was highly influenced by physiocrats school of thinking? Discuss. These are the people in 1700s. There were certain kinds of people. They used to believe that the national wealth will come from the agriculture. Agriculture, if you create good agricultural practices within the country, it will increase the wealth of the country. Those people were called physiocrats, and naturally in 1790s, this kind of ideas, so whatever happens in London, whatever ideology, whatever enlightenment ideas that are going on in Europe, they are going to be applied in India. At this point of time, Lord Cornwallis was there. He himself was a lord, and he himself felt that if private property rights are given to jamindars or landlords, they will improve the productivity, they will invest in the infrastructure, and they will increase the productivity and also income. It will increase, it will benefit everyone. Like that, that philosophy comes from physiocratic school of thinking. It influenced. But again, they have critically analyzed means they have another discuss means they have another mechanism, another way of looking at also. They wanted some loyal jamindars in case of India. That's why they created very loyal jamindars on one side and also very continuous flow of income also for the British administrators. Next one. The tug of war between two principles of freedom and control of the press made its influence felt on the colonial rulers' attitude to the press. Discuss. Just now I have mentioned that when it comes to election, they don't want to give the election name, but again they want to prove Indians that they are pro-democracy. In the same manner, their attitude towards press is like this. For example, James Augustus Hickey, he was the one who started newspaper trend in India. And they want to show that they are very, British administrator used to show that the freedom of press, these are the modern values. But on the other hand, to preserve their empire, they used to impose restrictions on the press. So always they oscillate between freedom of press and restrictions on the press. When it comes to like in 1780s, newspaper culture started. But when there was Napoleonic wars, and they imposed restrictions. Wellesley imposed restrictions. Later, Charles Metcalfe is considered as liberator of the press. And after some time, they are going to impose the restrictions in the wake of 1857 revolt. Then they will liberate a little bit and Vernacular Press Act will come and they are going to create much problems for the vernacular newspapers. And again, when after Indian National Congress emerge and when they demand for the democratic rights, they will liberate little bit. When freedom fight national movement will come in the wake of Bengal partition, again press restrictions. Always this is going to be very oscillation. The tug of war between two principles of freedom and control of the press made its influence felt on the colonial rulers' attitude to the press. So you have to highlight one by one like this. Despite that, Indians utilized whatever existing freedom for promoting nationalism ideas. The movement for linguistic states generated deep apprehensions among the nationalist elite. They feared it would lead to balkanization of India. Examine. It's like simple, like initially it was feared. The movement for linguistic generated deep apprehensions among them. They feared. So simply, why initial leaders or elite leaders were afraid of this kind of demand. After 1947, there were demands for separate states based on language. Indian National Congress only demanded the British in 1920s that British provinces should be divided based on language so that they can mobilize the people, because similar language easy to mobilize. It is easy to generate awareness about the nationalism among Indians when there is a similar language, and easy to show to the British, easy to show to the people that if there is only one province with the same language, they can mobilize all the sections of the people and to show that this is how British Raj and we have to fight against it. But after independence, now the same people like Jawaharlal Nehru, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel and other national leaders, they feared that just now freedom came, but freedom did not come with peace, it came with partition. Based on religion, one country was formed. Now immediately after independence, new demands emerged like immediately there should be separation of states based on language. The leaders feared that once again this may lead to split like Pakistan, East Pakistan, West Pakistan, like that country may divide into different kingdoms or different countries based on language. Now we have one India combining all religions, all languages. But they feared, afraid that because of refugee crisis, because of the partition and also because of the continuous communal clashes, they were afraid that once again people, instead of developing all Indians are same, instead of developing the feeling of brotherhood, the animosity, the continuous hatred towards the other languages may result in the balkanization of the country. So that's why you just need to highlight what are the apprehensions. Partition happened due to divide and rule policy, and because of that continuous movement of the Pakistani forces into Kashmir, refugees crisis came, Hindu-Muslim tensions were going on, communal tensions were going on. Now in addition to that, if language also become another trouble, now it is going to create a huge trouble for the independent country. During the Carnatic Wars, French position, which at one time dazzled the Indian world by its political success, was destined to end in humiliation and failure. Simply explain the rise and fall of French in Carnatic Wars. Just you need to highlight, in the first Carnatic War, there is a draw. Second Carnatic War, French upper hand, and they were really able to control even Hyderabad region also, Carnatic region also. Later in the third Carnatic War, British completely sidelined, completely captured French territories and made a treaty with the Treaty of Paris that in India, French should only limit themselves to commercial activities, not to the politics. So in the first and second Carnatic Wars, they tried to, first and half of the second Carnatic War, the French people really controlled. Dupleix was the person who have shown the path to the British that there is a chance of building empire in India. He was the one who interfered in the local politics. He defeated the local rulers, Carnatic Nawab, with a small trained French officers, French soldiers, and those soldiers were also recruited from Indians only. Indian soldiers only, French model of training, modern equipment, small number of people can defeat large armies of the native rulers. Dupleix has shown. Later, another person called Bussy, he was appointed in Hyderabad state also to handle the interest of the French. Dupleix is also given the position of that below Krishna, he was like a Subedar. That means he is like a very powerful officer within the Mughal Empire for his role he played in making Hyderabad Nizam as the ruler. So simply, initially they involved in the local politics, they became successful, they defeated Indian rulers also, they defeated British also, that is the first half. In the second half, due to weakness of the French and also strengths of the British, gradually the French power gradually declined. So you have to highlight the rise and fall of French. Why has the safety valve theory related to the foundations of Indian National Congress has been thoroughly discredited by recent researchers analyze? Lala Lajpat Rai, he was an extremist wing of Indian National Congress. When there was a continuous rivalry between moderates and extremists, extremist leaders started abusing moderates by saying that you are not true patriots, your Congress is just a safety wall, it is created by the British only, you are just playing by the rules of the British, you are just playing as per the wishes of the British. So extremist wing leaders used to complain about moderate form of politics and their methods of politics. And the reason why Lala Lajpat Rai had chosen is there was a biography of A.O. Hume. A.O. Hume is the founder of Indian National Congress. As per that biography written by Wedderburn, due to some kind of analysis within that given in that book, Lala Lajpat Rai interpreted as if A.O. Hume was encouraged by Dufferin, Governor General of that time period, Viceroy of that time period, to create one organization so that 1857 type of revolt will not come. Immediately, Britishers can crush any kind of revolt, or they will come to know if there is any kind of dissent among the public. But here question is, this was thoroughly discredited in recent researchers means that was during that time period. But later researchers means there is no clear-cut relationship between A.O. Hume and Dufferin. And in fact, Dufferin, Governor General himself, was very much afraid of A.O. Hume, and when he went to Bombay, he wrote, Governor General Viceroy wrote to Bombay Governor that be careful of this person A.O. Hume. He is trying to make something very disturbing trend for British. So there is no good relationship between Viceroy and A.O. Hume. Then how come A.O. Hume will create one organization as per the wishes of Viceroy? And also in that book it was told that he came across some kind of home department files. It is showing that some kind of danger is going to happen to the British. But A.O. Hume was working in some other department. He will not have the access to home department files, secret files. Again, that is also discredited. On the other hand, the leaders were nationalist in nature, like Surendranath Banerjee, Dadabhai Nauroji, Badruddin Tyabji. These are all the very patriots, and they are not going to play by as per the wishes of the British. No doubt they followed constitutional method, no doubt they believed in the providential mission of the British, but it doesn't mean just they are doing or they are just working for the agenda of the British. British agenda is to maintain empire, whereas moderates agenda is to give as much freedom as possible to the Indians. That's why it is not thoroughly discredited by the recent researcher. There is no credible evidence to show that Congress is a safety wall of the British Raj. That you need to highlight. So that means you have to just highlight, discredit the safety wall theory. Next question. The emergence of Gandhi signified the Indianization of the national movement, analyzed with reference to his early movements between 17 to 22. So simply, it is like he brought really masses to the public. He contributed for making really movement as mass-based movement. 17 to 22 means like Champaran Satyagraha in Bihar, Ahmednagar, Ahmedabad textile mills protest, and Keda Satyagraha. So before he started non-cooperation movement, regional level, local level, he has done. Champaran Satyagraha, Keda Satyagraha, Ahmedabad textile mill protests. In that way, he tried to bring common people like peasants, workers, women, Hindu Muslims all together in non-cooperation movement. His leadership proved effective because he is not telling any kind of violent methods. He is only asking the people to come with non-violent means. He was able to convince the people. Emergence of Gandhi signified the Indianization of the national movement. So true, real masses, that means the real national movement means people across the states, across the country, across the kingdoms, across the British provinces entered into the politics for the sake of freedom. Next question. The tensions between cultural revivalism and modernization shaped the trajectory of the social-religious reform movement in 19th century in India. Discuss. A simple reformation during 1800s. Everyone, Indians, very clear that there needs to be a reformation within the country. Because social evils, women related, caste related, religion related, superstition related. Some people inspired by the Western thought wanted reformation. But after some time, some people felt that this is like modernization, not westernization. We have to use the same liberal values that are prevalent within the Indian soil. So that's why two types of movements emerged. Both wanted modernization, both wanted reformation within the society. But one group came to be called as reformatory organization, another one called revivalist organization. Revivalist means if there is evil in the present day society, it is not same across the history. Once upon a time, Indians were very liberal. Just we need to take inspiration from them. If we just remember them, automatically we become modernized and we become liberalized. That's why examples Brahma Samaj, when it comes to modernization or reformatory. Revival means Arya Samaj. Likewise, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar on one hand, then Swami Vivekananda on the other hand. So in this way, two types of organization with respect to every religion. In Hinduism, Brahma Samaj, Arya Samaj. In case of Islam also, some wanted Ahmadiyya movement, some wanted Wahhabi movement. On the other hand, some wanted English education to the Muslims. Some wanted, they wanted pure religious education like the Prophet Muhammad days. Likewise, in Sikhism movement also, some wanted modern values like English education and Western values, and some wanted the pure religious scriptures tenets so that they can enjoy the old or ancient or medieval or pure lifestyle. In that way, one is revivalism, another one is modernization. That is a continuous process, it was going on. You just need to highlight some organizations which are inspired by the Western thought and also to reform the, which reform the Indian society. On the other hand, who have taken the inspiration from the past, from the religion and try to reform the society. Revival and modernization. That tension is going on, that is shaped. That is why because of that tension, some organization became very liberal, some organization became revival, and it led to conservative attitude of some people. Next, in what ways did the tribal and peasant uprisings of 19th century contribute to the rise and growth of nationalism in India? Very easy. Like the contribution of simply tribal revolt and national peasant movements, how it led to the nationalism means in their local ways. Both tribal uprisings and peasant uprisings, they have shown the path to the people that there is a clear-cut exploitation from the British, taxation system, trade policies, artisan industrial policies, mining policies, all are exploiting the Indians. When tribals are revolting, then newspapers were writing about them. When peasant movements are going on, newspapers are writing about them. Now, within their local region also, it is instigating nationalism feeling that they wanted to get freedom from the British. At the same time, when newspapers are highlighting these movements in the other mainstream society also, people started gradually developing the feeling of nationalism. That these are our people, these tribes are our Indians, these peasants are our Indians, but the British are exploiting them, British are punishing them for no mistake. That's why we have to fight. Like they are fighting, we also should fight. That is how it led to the rise of national consciousness and growth of nationalism. Examine. But again, examine means they are limited in nature. The real national movement, only when mass-based movement started, that nationalism became very strong. Next one. Discuss the major initiatives taken by the government of India for the removal of caste injustice and inequality after 1947. After 1947, constitution came, constitutional method, legal methods, and some administrative measures. Like that, you can divide. Constitution methods mean caste injustice, untouchability removal, equality before law, equal protection, no discrimination, all these within the constitution itself. When it comes to legal methods like abolition of untouchability, Civil Rights Act, SC/ST Atrocities Act, Manual Scavenging Act, like that caste discrimination related laws were also passed. And many schemes related to employment, job reservation, education. In education, scholarships are given, hostel facilities are given, where all people are same, no discrimination based on the caste. That is how you just need to highlight constitutional provision, legal provisions, administrative measures. In that way, since discuss the major initiatives taken by Government of India for removal of caste injustice inequality after 1947. The continue till now. Question is going to be very simple, not complicated questions are given with respect to modern India also, like ancient medieval here also. Let us see old history. Critically examine following statements in about 150 words. French Revolution started and led to the victory in its first phase by the aristocracy. If there is any kind of little bit difficult question, means this question. It is saying that aristocrats led the movement initially. So it is showing that when it comes to 1789, when it comes to 1789, crisis came, financial crisis. Now king wanted to impose the tax. Now tax means only those people who have money, they have to pay the tax. Generally, third estate used to pay. First estate called clergy, second estate nobles, nobility, and common people. Third estate, first, second, and third. But in third, there is a bourgeois class. That means some rich people are there, some traders, some merchants, some landlords, but they are common people, third estate. Nobles means these two get the privileges historically. Aristocrats means these people, they were able to bring certain kind of reform initially. So when king wanted to impose the tax, in fact, they were having the control over the king, or at least some kind of influence over the king. And they were the one who asked, let us convene general estate. Estate general. Estate general like a parliament, but that was convened 170 years ago. More than 170 years ago, that was convened. Now they are the one who felt that if this estate general come, then they are going to vote for the taxation system. Otherwise, now because of the financial crisis, even they also have to pay the burden of the taxes. But when it comes to the existing law, this the estate general have voting system, entire estate into one vote, entire estate into one vote, one vote. They felt that once again, once we bring estate general into function, if we vote, first two votes go to the taxation, that taxes should be there, but they are also getting the privileges. So they were hopeful that taxes can be transferred to the third estate while maintaining these privileges. And also some of these privileges, some of the nobles, some of the aristocrats were genuinely trying to reform the system also. Some of the finance ministers, they were trying to reform the system. So these finance ministers comes from aristocrats only. So that is why, like bringing estate general into function and also asking the royal family members to reduce the expenditure. Some finance ministers gave instructions to the royal family members and the royal court that we should not spend this much money. Otherwise, it is going to affect entire France. Bankruptcy is taking place. You also should reduce. It's a kind of revolution. That means finance minister is trying to reduce the expenditure of the royal family. That itself is a very brave step. They are not going to actually listen. They are going to remove the finance ministers, whoever doing like this. But they have triggered that. So later, when directly they are not able to reform it, they demanded the king or suggested the king to go for estate general, so that all people will at least come to know, and through the system they can reform the system. That's what initially. But after some time, what happened? And in fact, when third estate general was convened, later the third estate asked that voting should not be based on estate as an entire vote. One person, one vote is required. At that point of time, some aristocrats even voluntarily gave up their privileges also. So they gave up for the sake of nation, for the sake of kingdom, empire, they gave up also. It is a kind of revolutionary. So giving up privileges, advising the king to convene estate general, advising the royal family members to reduce the expenditure, advising the king to spend some money on the expenditure, some infrastructure, so that common people get relieved. All these steps were initially taken by the upper class or aristocrats. But the moment, third estate has taken control after tennis court vote, gradually that leadership moved into the hands of bourgeois, middle class or bourgeois, and they led the movement thereafter. Here question is also like that only. French Revolution started and led to the victory in its first phase by the aristocrats. That's why in the first place, later bourgeois, then more radicals entered, then the entire French Revolution moved in a different direction. With the Reform Act 1832 began an activity in reconstructing legislation to which there had been no parallel in British history. It is just to highlight the significance of Reform Act 1932. Simply, labor reforms, women-related, when it comes to democratic rights to labor, democratic rights to women, and even abolition of slavery also. It's a gradual process. So that is why just you need to highlight Reform Act 1832 is one of the liberal legislation ever done by the British Parliament, and it has given democratic rights to different sections of the people, which earlier property right is required, education right is required, now they relaxed. That's why it has no parallel in British history. Means just you need to highlight this 1832 Act. But all the demands did not come in 1832, it is going to come over a period of time. So like that, you just need to highlight what are the features of Reform Act 1832. In fact, in India also, in 1833, one act also will come. 1813 Charter Act, 1833 Charter Act will come, and as with respect to that, William Bentinck was the Governor General of this time period. That Governor General is considered as the person who is more liberal in nature. That also inspired by this kind of act, because during this time period, utilitarianism principles were going on. They wanted basic human rights to everyone, then equal treatment to everyone. In that way, modern liberal reformatory tendencies were going on. As per that, British society also got reformed in 1832 Act. Next, the First World War did not produce just political consequence, it also had a deep impact on the way of thinking. Simply, again, question is very simple. Explain the consequences of First World War. Explain the consequence, not only political consequences, economic consequences, then cultural consequence, the way they started. For example, when it comes to World War I, after First World War, empires were there earlier. Now empires are not going to stay. People started demanding for their democratic rights, change in the ideology. Then women started demanding for their rights, change in ideology. Then workers started demanding. That's why Russian Revolution, many communist revolutions are also, communist movements are going to start in Europe. That became a very big threat for those dictators. That's why this is way of thinking itself changed. Women level thinking, labor level thinking, rights related thinking, and democracy in terms of politics also changed. And even some people started even moving towards atheist, because World War I happened in such a large scale, everywhere killings, people started questioning the presence of God himself. If there is God, this kind of disaster might not happen. Some people even move towards atheism. So like that, deep impact on the ways of thinking. In the Soviet Union, as also in China, there was a strong belief that anti-imperial movements in the colonies would result in their moving into the socialist orbit. It's simply how USSR and China expected newly formed independent countries will come to the socialist fold or the communist fold. Why? Why they felt like that? In the Soviet Union, as also China, there was a strong belief that anti-imperial movement in colonies means what? Capitalism is seen as a tool of colonialism. That's why when the world divided into two camps, capitalist and socialist or communist. For example, colonies. So colonies see capitalism is an exploitative tool. That's why they move towards this one. That's why USSR and also China felt this way. Now, when it comes to this side, industrial progress was not there in the countries. Poverty, when it comes to this, it is saying about removal of poverty. Then in their societies, concentration of wealth in few hands, they are saying distribution of the wealth. Therefore, the colonies, the kind of socio-economic political setup created by colonial masters in the colonies created so many problem challenges. After the independence, now they got independence. It is up to them. They are now sovereign. Either they can move towards, they can go this side or this side. It is up to them. They felt that naturally all these people will move toward this. But to their surprise also, led by India, India told, we cannot become, already we were slaves of this side. So far, we don't want to become slaves of another ideology, communism like this. USSR, we don't want to become slaves of USSR. We want autonomy in autonomy in foreign policy. That's why they followed non-aligned movement. So that's why it is in the Soviet Union. Why they means you have to explain various the colonial legacy, challenges of the problems faced by the colonies after their independence, and those they expected that these problems will naturally push them towards socialism. Next, pre-Marxian socialist thinkers envisioned socialist societies without fully considering the practical mechanisms for achieving or maintaining them. So it's like just you need to highlight a different set of people. Saint Simon, Fourier, then different type of people were there. They were called utopian socialists. Utopian socialism given by the term by Karl Marx, and he called his theory is scientific socialism, because these early socialist thinkers, they kept the decision of distribution of the wealth in the hand of wealthy person only. Moral force, not any kind of obligation on the wealthy person to distribute the resource to the poor. That's why it is that pre-Marxian socialist thinkers envisioned socialist societies without fully considering the practical mechanism for achieving it. There is no exact mechanism how they want to maintain equality, egalitarianism, wealth distribution. They don't have any kind of mechanism or the process or tool to make it happen across the world. Unless Karl Marx come. Karl Marx, Engels and Karl Marx, they devised this system that entire history is like division of two classes, oppressed and exploiting class. Oppressed class now have to revolt and remove the oppressed class. That kind of tool is given by Karl Marx. But initial people, they were only moral in nature. They were only making moral obligations on the wealthy people to distribute. But there is no compulsory for the wealthy person to give. So that's why there is no practical way of distributing. It's purely based on independent industrialists, independent merchants, independent wealthy people up to their moral standards to distribute the wealth to the people. Next one. Nationalism in the 19th century was a driving force for both integration and disintegration, illustrated with examples from Europe and other parts of the world. Nationalism in 19th century. 19th century means 1800s. Nationalism in 1800s was a driving force for both integration and disintegration. So now how you see? For example, if you take Holy Roman Empire, it contains some Italian parts, it contains some German. Now German also, many small kingdoms were there. Italy, outside Holy Roman Empire also, Italy was there. Many small kingdoms were there. Disintegration, integration means these German states integration. They wanted to form one country. These Italian states wanted to form one country, integration. But on the other hand, They want to break from Holy Roman Empire, break from Holy Roman Empire, breaking. So breaking of the empire, unification, both nationalism. On the other hand, Ottoman Empire, when divisions are there among Slavs, they wanted unity, unification, but they don't want to stay under Ottomans, disintegration. Egyptian people, Arabs, like that. So when there were divisions, they wanted to unify themselves with nationalism. At the same time, they don't want to stay under foreign ruler or empire. That's where nationalism was a driving force for both integration and disintegration. 1800s in Latin America, they don't want to stay under Spanish Empire and Portuguese Empire. They want to maintain their own, illustrated with examples from Europe and other parts of the world. In India also, many small kingdoms are there. Now we wanted a unified India, but we don't want to stay with the British like that. So Ottomans, Asia, Europe, Holy Roman Empire, Latin America, America and Asia. So in that way, both integration as well as disintegration. The American Revolution was in many aspects a manifestation of the Enlightenment in political, civil, ecclesiastical spheres. Simply, it is asking the factors behind American Revolution. Very straightforward question. Political factors, then religious factors, then social factors you need to highlight. Politically, democracy. Socially, they wanted the respect for their own societies, and religious means religious freedom. So they want freedom. Freedom, right to property, freedom of religion and democracy, no taxation without representation. They want representation. All those factors you need to highlight. Next, did new imperialism represent a continuation of the old colonial practices, or did it mark a fundamental shift in the global power structure? Discuss critically. So it is related to the current context. Just you need to highlight that new imperialism means after. Did new imperialism represent a continuation of the old colonial practice, or did it mark a fundamental shift in the global power structure? One aspect is since the emergence of German Empire, Italian Empire and Japanese Empire, new imperialism started from that particular time period. Continuation of the old colonial practices. Old colonial practices means what? Like British, like Spanish, like Portuguese. Spanish people went, colonized Latin America and they started ruling there. They also settled in Latin America and their resources are also went to Spanish metropolitan. Portuguese people also settled, colonized, like in case of India, in Goa, in other places, they colonized. French people also went to America, Canada, other places colonized. They also settled and they also exploited the locals. It's a combination of settlement going and settling there and exploiting also. But when it comes to the modern, it is not only that. When it comes to the Japanese people, Germany's people, Germany, Japan, Italy people, they don't want to settle there in their colonies. They just went there. They have occupied their territories. Like in case of Japan, they occupied the territories. Just they exploited the locals. And that's where it is a continuation of the old colonial practices means in some sense, not settling, not mingling with the locals, that kind of colonial practice is not there. But at the same time, some of the colonial practices like exploitation, that is a continuation. Did it mark a fundamental shift in global power structure mean like now Germany is emerging, Italy is emerging, Japan is emerging, and there like central powers, Germany, Austria, Italy, they created one central power, one shift in the global. Russia, France and England, they came together, one fundamental shift in the power balance. That is how it is a combination of both. Did it represent a continuation of old practices? Not completely, but indirectly continuation of the old practices, colonial practices. There was fundamental shift in global power structure. Yes, it is also a shift in the power structure as well. So you have to highlight both. Next one. By the time of 1932 elections, Germany's ruling classes began to feel that the only way to escape from deep economic crisis was to hand over political power to totalitarian agency. Just you need to highlight factors for the rise of totalitarian state in Germany. Simply factors behind the rise of Hitler. 1919 Treaty of Versailles, very humiliating treaty. Economically also disturbed. Next, Great Depression happened in 1929. Then continuous economic collapse. Communist parties or communist ideologies are growing. Protests are growing. Violence is growing. That's why now the people felt that it is better to hand over the power to one very strong ruler, and only the strong ruler can manage this economy, manage law and order, manage the social order. That's why by the time of elections, Germany ruling classes began to feel that only way to escape from deep economic crisis was to hand over political power to totalitarian agency. Explain. Simply here we have to explain role of economic crisis in the rise of dictators. Discuss critically the salient features of Mikhail Gorbachev's domestic reforms. Glasnost, perestroika, very straightforward question. Just highlight political reform, economic reform. Anti-clericalism of the Enlightenment echoed the sentiments of Renaissance and Reformation, yet neither endorsed the paganism of the Renaissance nor did it share the faith of Reformation. So simply it is that when it comes to Renaissance, it is like a rebirth of the ancient classical knowledge like Greek and Latin. And that time they were worshipping various gods and goddesses, Greek gods or Roman gods. That is what Renaissance. And that reflected in the paintings of paintings of various gods, angels and so on. Architecture also same. When it comes to the faith of Reformation, Reformation means what? They don't want Catholic Christianity control. They wanted to read Bible in their local. They want to have maintained direct relationship between God and human being. No intermediary is required. That is Reformation. Renaissance, rebirth of the classical knowledge, classical way of practices. Reformation means transformation in the mode of worship. Anti-clericalism of the Enlightenment echoed the sentiments of Renaissance and Reformation, yet it neither endorsed. So what is saying? That anti-clericalism means anti-religion. Here Reformation is about religion. Renaissance is also about appreciating the ancient religions. But Enlightenment is anti-clericalism of Enlightenment is against the religion. But their inspiration going to be from Reformation and Renaissance. That means what? Renaissance talks about freedom. Renaissance gives focus on the experiences of the individual in their own way, and also freedom of expression. Nothing should be, they should not worry about the church control. When it comes to faith of Reformation, Reformation means they are attacking the church for the sake of their evils, for the sake of corruption within the Catholic Church, and also imposing the Catholic Bibles or Roman Bibles on the other people of the people, other section of the people where there is local languages are very strong. So simply against church dominance and also freedom of expression. Anti-clericalism is talking about that only. What they wanted, they don't want any dominance of Catholic Christianity. Reformation. They wanted freedom of religion. They want to follow any kind of religion. They want to freely express whatever they want. It is up to them how they visualize their God, how to project their God. That is up to the Renaissance. So Renaissance inspired them, Reformation inspired them, but exactly they did not yet endorsed paganism of Renaissance. They don't want when it comes to Renaissance, multiple gods. Anti-clericalism will not go. They want freedom of religion, but it doesn't mean they are going to worship so many gods. No. And they don't want church control. So they don't want share. Neither they share with the faith of Reformation means they don't want Catholic Christianity. It doesn't mean they want Protestant Christianity also. They don't want that also. So like that. They don't want idol worship also. They don't want Protestantism also. They want simply, they don't want any dominance. They want freedom of expression. These principles also come from there, but some of the fundamental features of them, they don't want to share. That's why you need to highlight. So simply it is about removal of the religion from the politics, secularism, removal of the religion, make the religion as a private affair so that people can have freedom of faith, freedom of religion, like that. Why did non-communist Vietnamese leaders fail to provide successful leadership for Indo-China's anti-colonial struggle? Very fundamental question. Like, why in case of China, why the nationalists could not match the communists? It's like a strength of communist and a weakness of the nationalists. And it is like a continuous power struggle. It is what natural reasons, continuous power struggle among themselves. And also they were having elitist tendencies so that the resources were in their hands, but common masses were seeing communists as the natural leaders. Next one, their attachment with the colonial masters like French people, USA people. Now what happens? Common people are seeing them as the representative of the colonial people, not the true representative of the people. That's where their association with the colonial masters, elite nature of this leadership, and also power struggle amongst themselves for the power, all these factors led to the non-communist Vietnamese leaders. On the other hand, communist, they were very humble background, they were mixing with the locals, unity in the leadership, ideologically very strong. On the other hand, there is no strong ideology. Like that, you have to highlight. It is same everywhere. Why Lenin became successful in Russian Revolution? Why Mao became successful in Chinese Communist Revolution? Why communist Vietnam? Ho Chi Minh became successful in Vietnam. That is their strength, also weakness on the opposite side. To what extent did the concept of free trade of European Economic Community contribute to the formation of European Union? Examine. It is like just you need to highlight, explain the factors behind the rise of European Union. Because free trade, once a free trade principle comes, then people, traders, merchants, then industrialists started talking about across Europe. They freely move from one place to the other place, and they started understanding the regional requirements of the people, appreciating the regional level, local level sentiments, and also solidarity is emerging, building across the Europe. So economic factor, political, military is one thing. Here it is talking about to what extent did the concept of free trade it contribute, means free trade contributed a lot, but at the same time, free trade means what? Now free borders, people move from one place to the other place, people appreciating the cultures across Europe, people learning, understanding each other one by one. Same in the case of India also. If free market is not there across India, then north people will not move to south, south people will not go to northeast, northeast will not come to west. Then there is no mechanism of understanding each other. Only when they feel each other that they have commonalities, they are interdependent on each other, then they will not go for war. They want uniform and unity. That is where one is economic angle, but political military angle is also another reason. You highlight this also. Examine means highlight economic factors and other factors are also there. Examine the impact of the links between scientific education and industrial expansion on German society in early 20th century. Early 20th century means 1900s, early 1900s. You just need to highlight, examine the, it is a really somewhat difficult question only because specific facts we may not have. This we need to highlight. Examine the impact of the links between scientific education and industrial expansion. But generally, we have to highlight that just the role of knowledge and industrial expansion on German society. So 20th century means what? Early 1900s. After the unification of Germany, now all German states became single unified empire. Now with scientific education, they gradually came out of religious education. It made them think very freely in a more innovative manner, and they started inventing something new scientific advancements. As a result, it helped industrial expansion. Industries expanded, military industries expanded, standard of living improved, and overall GDP of the economy increased. Now they started feeling more confident that they can even defeat any power in the world. They started building navy, they started building a modern advanced air force, or also computers, air force, experimental stage is going on. By Second World War time period, Air Force is going to become very, very powerful with respect to Germany's military. Tanks, these are all modern advanced weapons, industrial machines that led to the progress of agriculture also, that led to the progress of industrial activities, trading activities also. At the same time, military-wise also, modern advanced military weapons they created. The reason is the link between scientific education, so that they come out of superstitious beliefs, the traditional education that led them people to think innovatively. They invented many things. That inventions led to industrial progress also. It's very interesting question, very important question also, because in case of India also same will apply. Just remove 20th century with 21st century. Examine the impact of the links between scientific education and industrial expansion on Indian society in 21st century. So link means directly if you promote education, scientific knowledge, R&D centers, then automatically it is going to improve your economy. GDP will increase, then the standard of living will increase, economy improves, at the same time security also will improve, borders also become safe. But when it comes to the First World War, Second World War, finally gradually it led to imbalance in the power. Germany, and they are increasing the naval strength. British felt offended. British don't want Germany to grow its naval power. After that growth, then they wanted colonies. Like now Germans started feeling that now we are very powerful. We defeated France. We defeated Austrian Empire also. Now we are very powerful. If United Kingdom is having colonies, we also should have. If France is having colonies, we also should have. They also competed for the colonies. That led to First World War. So that's why positive, negative you have to highlight. Impact of the links between scientific education and industrial expansion. Positive link is they helped each other. Negative, gradually it led to First World War. This is how you have to highlight. Is it clear? So the overall nature of the paper is easy only. Whatever the syllabus that mentioned, whatever regular books contains, questions appeared in the same format. Not very much difficult in nature. Just if you finish the syllabus chapter by chapter systematically, both paper 1 and paper 2, you can do history paper this year. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much.